Good morning, grade 7. Today we will talk about lesson 3, chemical compound in cells, in biology book. What are the difference between element and compound? We know that our bodies made of many substances that enter the composition of blood, bones, muscles, and more, These substances also take part in the chemical reaction necessary for life. These substances found in our bodies in two forms, element or compound. What the difference between them? Element means the simpler form of substance or matter that can't be broken down into simpler form, and its building unit is atom, So any single element made up of only one kind of atom. Examples of the famous element found in our bodies: carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, potassium, iron, sodium, and so on. While compound, they are substances resulted from combination between two or more elements by constant weight ratio, And its building unit of the compound is molecule. So the carbon dioxide molecule, examples of compound or examples of familiar compound around us as carbon dioxide and water, Carbon dioxide molecule formed by combination of one carbon atom with two oxygen atoms, Water molecule composed from two hydrogen atoms combined with one oxygen atom, So most of the element found in our bodies, found in a form of compound. And we have two types of compound, organic compounds and inorganic compounds. What are the difference between them? Organic compounds, they are compounds that contain carbon element in their composition and derived from living things, Examples for the famous organic compound: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, While inorganic compounds, they are compounds that don't contain carbon element in their composition. As water, we know that the symbol of water, H2O, so it doesn't contain carbon element. Table salt, which known as chemically sodium chloride, that consists of one sodium atom linked with one chlorine atom, so it doesn't contain carbon element, so it's known as inorganic compound. In this lesson, we will study together some important groups of organic compound that enter the composition of living organisms, And the living organisms need these important groups of organic compound to be alive. We will talk in details about carbohydrates group, lipids, proteins, and the nucleic acid, Let's start with the first group, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates, known as or defined as energy-rich organic compound that made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen elements, So we say that carbohydrates are rapid source of energy, the rapid source of energy to living organisms, We have many examples of carbohydrates. We have sugar, starch, cellulose, Sugar is a simple carbohydrate because it consists of smaller molecules, While starch and cellulose are known as complex carbohydrates because they made up of larger molecules, And they take longer time to be digested. Many foods contain carbohydrates, as potatoes, pasta, rice, and bread. And all of them come from plants. So we know that carbohydrates is organic compound. So it's derived from living organism, and the plant is considered a living organism. When we eat food that contain carbohydrates, your body breaks down or digests starch into sugar, okay? During digestion of food, okay, the starch changed into sugar, okay? The complex carbohydrate changed into simple carbohydrates that can be used by the cells to get energy. Cellulose is from carbohydrates, and it considered complex carbohydrates. Found in a plant cell wall, the outer edge of the plant cell, okay? And cellulose material gave the hardness of the cell wall, okay? Also, plant produce carbohydrates during photosynthesis process, okay? The second group, lipids. Lipids are compounds that composed mostly of carbon and hydrogen and some oxygen. The examples of lipids: fats, oils, and waxes. Okay? Lipids enter the composition of the cell membrane, where the cell membrane found inside plant cell or animal cell or all types of cells consist mainly from lipids layer. Okay? The lipids is considered a source of energy, and lipids produced more energy than carbohydrates, okay? But lipids, okay, stored in fatty cells can be used to produce energy later, okay? Examples: during winter, inactive beer leaves unstored energy in its fat cells. During winter, beer can't do more activities and hibernate, okay? So its activity decrease, and it depends on fat cells found in its body, okay, to obtain energy. And also the camel hump. The camel's hump stores fats that supply the camel with energy when it doesn't eat, okay? We have many food contain lipids, okay, as whole milk, ice cream, and all fried foods contain lipids, okay? The third group, proteins. Proteins is a large organic molecule composed from carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and in some cases sulfur. We have many types of food contain proteins, okay, as meat, dairy product, fish, nuts, and beans. Most of the cell organelles depend on proteins, and the proteins enter the structure of the cell membrane, okay, and also make up the parts of the cell's organelles. And we have important chemical compound inside our bodies called enzymes. The enzymes is a group of proteins. Its function speed up the chemical reaction necessary for life, okay? So the chemical reaction inside our living organism's body take a longer time without enzyme, okay? Example, we know that saliva juice secreted by salivary gland, okay? Saliva juice, its function changes starch into sugar or digest starch into sugar, because saliva contains many enzymes that speeds up the digestion of starch into sugar in our mouth. The last group, nucleic acid. Nucleic acid, very long organic molecule, consists of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Also, it contains phosphorus, okay? We have also many foods contain nucleic acids, okay? Nucleic acids found in red meat, okay? Shellfish and mushrooms. Its function, it helps in the formation of the genetic material which called DNA, okay? Which carried on the chromosomes found inside the cell nucleus. And it help chromosomes or DNA to produce an instruction that cell need to carry out all function of the life. From one kind of nucleic acid is deoxyribonucleic acid, okay, which is symbolized by DNA. We note that when you look the figure of the DNA, okay, we note that DNA is a double helix, as we see. A double helix consists of many smaller molecules called the nucleotide. Nucleotide arranged in DNA strands in a specific sequence and pattern, okay, that produce a code that the cell can read it, okay? Again, DNA, a double helix that forms from many small molecules called the nucleotides connected together in a specific pattern and the sequence make a type of chemical code that the cell can read. DNA is considered a genetic material which carry the genetic information about living organisms and can pass from parent to offspring, okay? Also, DNA carry the information that direct a cell's function, okay? Location of DNA located inside the cell's nucleus, okay? The last compound in our body and in our bodies and very important, water. Water is considered an inorganic compound because it doesn't contain carbon element, okay? Water represents 2/3 or 70% of living organisms' body and has a very important role in our cells. Number one, it takes part in chemical reaction occurred inside the cell because most substance found in our body depend on most chemical reaction in the cells depend on the substance that dissolved in water, okay, to be react. Water also helps the cell keep their shapes and keep the body temperature constant and play an important role in carrying substance into or out of the cell, okay? Again, water has a very important role in our cells because water shares in many chemical reactions occurred in the cells because most chemical reaction in the cells depend on the substance that be dissolved in water, okay, to be react or to can enter the chemical reaction. Also, water help the cell keep their shapes, okay, and also keep the cell temperature constant and play an important role in carrying substance into and out of the cells. Thank you. Great.